It's been amazing from hearing our students present to hearing the experts and entrepreneurs. And now we have the opportunity to hear the governor who is most invested in housing of any governor in the United States. Spencer Cox has shown it time and time again that he is committed to making housing more attainable in the state of Utah. Just 3.5 months ago, he called 48 of our mayors to the governor's mansion to have a very frank chat about housing. And he laid it on the line, things that we needed to do, to just make a difference. We cannot wait. Time is of the essence. And he feels the urgency, and you will feel that as he conveys it. So today we have the opportunity to welcome both Madison Mills of Axios, who is going to be interviewing the governor, sort of a live chat here, and Governor Cox. Let's hear it for both of them. Thank you very much.
Yes, as you just heard, we're getting the governor after 2 days after a 14-hour flight.
Yeah,
Is that correct?
It's fine. I have no idea what time it is. I don't even know what day it is. That international dateline is a thing. But it's great to be back.
We're excited to have you, and I'm excited to talk all things housing with you today, Governor. But I would be remiss to not acknowledge what you and your constituents have gone through recently with the killing of Charlie Kirk. Following that, you said that you were not sure if this was going to be the end of a dark period or a step toward an even darker one. Several weeks out, which of those two do you think we're heading more towards?
Well, thanks. I don't know the answer yet, but I will tell you that in the weeks that have gone by, I remain pretty hopeful. The response, the outpouring that we've received here in Utah from people on both sides of the aisle who hate what's happening in our country today. We used to refer to it as kind of the silent majority. We call it the exhausted majority now, that most people in this country hate where we are with our politics, and they're desperate for something different and better. And we're going to talk about market failures today. I think there's a market failure in both major parties when it comes to treating people with dignity and respect, and just getting back to good governance, which is what we'll also be talking about today. Government that delivers on its promises instead of hating each other and trying to own the other side. And I mean, we literally have a federal government that shut down and has been for almost a month now, because we can't get in a room and talk to each other, and that needs to change. So I don't know what that next chapter is yet, but I'm cautiously hopeful.
Well, to that end, we've got a lot of housing to talk about today. And you just mentioned something that I'd love to follow up on. As we mentioned, I'm a senior markets reporter at Axios. If you're not subscribed to the daily markets newsletter, feel free to take your phones out and do that after we're done with this conversation.
Do it right now.
No. Put the phones away. Put the phones away. But you just said something fascinating. You said we're going to talk about market failure today. And what's been interesting in my coverage is the degree to which the stock market and the economy are not necessarily aligned right now. We have stocks constantly hitting record highs. And then you talk to people, which I know you do a lot in your role, and they don't feel great about the economy. And one of the main reasons is housing. How do you explain that disconnect?
Well, yeah. The disconnect is real. We're seeing it in the data. It's something we haven't experienced for a long time. It worries me. But that disconnect is because housing is so fundamental to everything that we do. And it doesn't just, many of us, if we're lucky, we have a house. If we're really lucky, we have an interest rate that we closed on, a few years ago. So we're locked in at 3% or something like that, which is part of the problem because nothing's moving. So things are locked up. So I should be immune from that, right? Because I'm one of those people who was luckily, I refinanced my house 5 years ago and got a great rate. So I should be in good shape, but I have kids. And this is deeply personal for me because my wife and I got married fairly young. We decided to start our families fairly young while our friends were backpacking across Europe. We decided we wanted to do that on the back end when we had some money and could stay in a hotel instead of a hostel. And so this was the year we've been looking forward to. My youngest, my daughter, the youngest of 4, just went to college. So we are empty nesters. And I'll be danged. Yeah, thank you. But I'll be darned if 3 months ago 2 of my kids didn't boomerang back into our basement, and so now I'm not an empty nester, and that makes me unhappy with the economy, even though I have a 3% interest rate on my house because it's impacting me personally. So I think again, I think everybody's feeling it. The inflation that we've seen in the grocery stores, but also in housing is part of why people are unsettled right now with the economy.
And I got to follow up on rates, which you brought up. And today was sort of my Super Bowl because we had a Fed meeting, and the Fed cut interest rates by 25 basis points, but they said we're not sure if we're going to cut again in December. To what degree do you think that the actions of the Federal Reserve are directly impacting housing affordability? And how are you thinking about your housing affordability goals in the context of a Fed that is dealing with a lot of murkiness right now?
Yeah, sure. Look, I would say we got to get you a better Super Bowl. It was, I mean, it was fine. It was great, but it was fun. No, it was exciting. We love a rate cut. I was very excited that we got a rate cut, and it absolutely impacts things. And again, it impacts the market in 2 ways, right? So one, just if you're buying a house, you want a lower rate. That helps just natural affordability. That's easy. The second part, though, is this problem that we have people locked in at lower rates who are not willing to, who could move up, who want to move up, but aren't moving up. So that kind of freezes everything and makes it so much harder to get things moving again, and we're stuck there. So that's why we need it. Having a couple rate decreases is huge. It makes a difference, but we're not where we need to be yet, and I'm very hopeful that we get a chance to see those rates coming down, that the economy participates in such a way that they can make those decisions and we get lower rates. It will just benefit everyone.
But to your point on supply and demand, one of the things that's fascinating about the housing market right now is that we've got a supply and demand problem. So then which one do you address?
Well, supply side all the time, always, forever. That's the only way to do this. But that's, when you have a supply and demand issue, or when you have a cost increase issue, there's 2 ways, right? You can increase supply or decrease demand. What the interest rate increases have done is artificially destroy demand, right? So we may see housing prices come down a little bit in some places, but just because people can't afford it because interest rates are too high doesn't mean the demand is not there. So this is just artificial demand destruction. That's what interest rate hikes do, and they do that to cool a heated up economy. But the downstream effects are that my kid can't buy a house, even though he has a good degree and a good job, and that's problematic. So supply is the answer to all of that.
And within that, what is the single biggest thing that you think can be done to increase that supply and specifically increase affordable housing?
Yes. So kind of 2 questions there. Affordable housing is a very distinct term and means something. I'm interested in that, and that still matters. And we have a housing fund here in Utah. We're taking advantage of the LIHTC credits everywhere we can to build more affordable housing. But I'm thinking more of attainable housing and just the need to build more of everything. And the data is pretty clear on this. We need. I'm specifically focused in one area that I think is most important. It's an area that's been left behind, and that's starter homes. We kind of stopped building starter homes in our country about 20 years ago for lots of different reasons. But we're building lots of big apartment buildings and lots of really expensive houses. But that missing middle is a real thing. And so that's where my focus is. You asked, what can we do? What are the things that we can do? So there's a couple that really matter, and government's the biggest part of the problem. If we had no government regulations whatsoever, I don't believe we would have a housing problem. I think we would actually have a market, and the market would take care of itself. Now, I'm not able to get rid of all of those regulations anywhere, although we're doing more of that here, and some states have taken huge steps, Texas being one of them. But so that's one area where we have to deregulate to allow people to build what they want to build where they want to build it. So that's certainly one part of it. The second is, and this is part of that, but is how quickly we get permitting done. Time is money, and getting those approvals and getting them done quickly is really important to me and to anybody that is in the developer world or anybody who just wants a home. I think those are two of the biggest obstacles that we face right now as a country. We've just, and it's not just in housing, by the way, it's everywhere. We've made a bunch of really stupid decisions as a country. We used to be able to build big things, and we stopped doing that. We put regulations in place that were well intended, but they've gone so far that they've had the exact opposite effect. So it's not just housing, but it's energy as well. Energy development is so important. We've got to, when we talked earlier about why people are struggling right now and why they're upset with the economy, their power bills are going up. And that's a tax on everyone. You still have to turn on the light if you're poor or rich. It doesn't matter. And so that's a really regressive type of tax that hurts the most vulnerable amongst us. And if you can't have shelter and you can't have power, man, you're really struggling. So those are a couple of the areas where I think we can make a huge impact.
And I want to zero in on some of the red tape that you're referring to. And like you said, a lot of this came out of the global financial crisis to try and prevent that from obviously happening again. What do you think are some areas where maybe the regulation did go too far that are specifically coming up for you in your work here in Utah?
Yeah, so look, just land use regulation in general, making sure that we can that we can get things approved in a timely manner. It's really frustrating. We've got big developments out there who are ready to go, and they can't. They're waiting years to get those permits. And that just can't happen. Now, we estimate, well, not we, others have estimated that for every year an infrastructure project or a housing project, the time added, a year's time frame, it increases by about 30%. So if something takes 3 years longer, then it doubles in price. That's what That's what we're looking at. And so that's a really big piece of this for us. Now, infrastructure funding is a really big piece, and that's a struggle for our local communities. I'm sympathetic to that. So we're working as a state to we've created an infrastructure bank so that we can help fund some of these big infrastructure projects that we think will make a big difference. But there's other things, just like being able to build an accessory dwelling unit on your property. That's an easy way for us to increase supply very quickly. It adds to the value of the home. Giving people the ability to do that can transform things very quickly, and so that's another area where we've made some inroads, but we've got more to do.
Since you brought that up, I know we were talking a little bit about your tech background. And one of the things as a renter in New York City that I'm fascinated by is how low tech home ownership seems to be. Like there's not a good app where you can just swipe up and get someone to come over and fix something for you. It just seems very analog and makes me feel like I never want to deal with being a homeowner. It just seems really hard. What do you make of that? Like, why hasn't home ownership become a little bit more tech savvy, and what are some of the barriers there?
Yeah. So look, again, housing is unique in some ways in that it's so labor intensive, right? AI can't build you a house. It can't do that. And we're struggling in that area because you need real people to be able to do this. And so we've invested significantly in our trade and technical institutions. These are great jobs that pay very well. We made a mistake in our country. This idea that every kid needs a bachelor's degree was a huge mistake. And so we're pushing kids to kind of four-year institutions, which we're sitting in one. They're wonderful. But it's not for everyone. And so we have a lot of kids who go there and drop out and they don't have a degree, and now they have debt and they're in worse shape than they would have been anyway. And I hate it when I talk to parents and I say, hey, your son just graduated. What are they going to do? Or your daughter? And they feel so embarrassed to tell me that they want to become a plumber or electrician. They're like, well, they were going to go to the Utah State University, but now they're taking a year and they're going to, and I'm like, don't be ashamed of that. Like, that's incredible. We should be celebrating that. And we desperately need more of it, especially as we're dealing with immigration issues, which is part of this as well. And that's always going to be the case. Now, we should be doing more on the modular side. because if you can kind of standardize the way that we build, then you get some benefits of economies of scale and speed and manufacturing that you see in other areas like the tech sector. And we haven't been great at that either, but several states, including Utah now, we're making strides to make it easier so that if you want to go the modular route, part of the problem is, again, that every locality may have a different standard that you have to build to, and so you can't build modular because then in Utah, you've got 250 municipalities that you have to deal with. And so standardizing that now, where we're doing that at the state level, where we can do a state level code and a state level inspection for modular to make it easier. Those are some areas where I think we could make some gains moving forward.
And you bring up the topic of labor supply. So, and specifically, obviously, immigration is having a key impact on that. This is a key policy position of the Trump administration. To what degree is the quelling of immigration impacting your ability to achieve your housing goals, given what you mentioned earlier, that housing costs go up by 30% every year that they're delayed? I imagine that taking a key part of the labor supply out fuels that.
Yeah, it does, and I don't know that we have numbers on what that's going to look like right now, but having a rational immigration policy is just so important. Being one of the only nations on earth that doesn't, it was a terrible policy to just let everyone in. That can't work, and it never should have happened. And so we had to have a correction there, but we have to figure out the legal immigration piece and how we're doing this, and we're doing it wrong. We're doing it wrong in the tech sector. We're doing it wrong in the housing sector as well. And so we shouldn't be taking jobs away from Americans, but we should be working. There's plenty of these jobs to go around. We can't get enough people in these jobs and in these trades. And so just being able to choose. One of the proposals that we put forward, a bipartisan proposal a couple years ago, it hasn't gone anywhere, and it probably won't. But that we would allow that the federal government would set kind of a limit on the broad number of immigrants, but then governors would have an opportunity to decide how many people they wanted in their state and which sector, which would make it much easier for us. If you need, if your state has a huge hospitality industry and you need some visas, then you could get those visas. If your state didn't want anyone coming in, that's great. You could make that decision too. We think that would be a rational way to do this, and it could ebb and flow too. If we need help in the housing sector right now, we could get that, but we wouldn't always need that, and we could change our mind, 5 years down the road when the market's different.
What have your conversations with Washington looked like on this? Have you spoken to the president specifically about immigration?
So yeah, I've spoken to the president about immigration. He tends to agree that we need to stop the border problems, which we've been able to achieve, and then we need to figure out the legal piece of that. I'm not sure everyone around him agrees with that, but he certainly does. And look, and we just saw that. I mean, he just went to South Korea. He said we made a huge mistake when it came to the manufacturing plant that the South Koreans were helping us put up when we came in and arrested a whole bunch of people and sent them back. It was just a terrible mistake that made no sense. And so he gets that. I mean, he's a developer, he's a builder, he understands how important this is to get it right. And I think that's where his head is right now. And hopefully, but Congress has to act. Like these are not things that a president can or should be able to do. You actually have to have a functional Congress who does stuff. And until we get that, it's going to be really hard for us to do anything.
To what degree is the shutdown coming up for you in day to day now? I know you're obviously a state governor, but just curious.
Yeah, it's about to come up more starting in November because of some benefits, SNAP and others that are going to fall short where we don't have the funding right now. I will say this shutdown, and I've been through a few of them now, is very different than any other shutdown I've been a part of in the least amount of attention it is receiving compared to the other ones. It is not coming up at all in my day-to-day discussions. We had a special session of the legislature, never came up. Nobody's talking about it. It's the weirdest shutdown I've ever been associated with. I think people are just so done with a dysfunctional Washington, D.C., that they don't even care that it's shut down and not working. It's like, great, they don't work anyway, so it might as well be shut down. The problem is, if you have a job and you're not getting paid, then that's a problem for you, for sure. And that's impacting people, and it's very serious. And then when when the government's not delivering on their promises with benefits that have been guaranteed, whether you support those types of benefits or not, the government has made a decision to supply those benefits. And so this is a fake kind of emergency that is being forced upon us. But I just have to say, for the average person who doesn't have a federal job and is not impacted by the benefits, I have these conversations with people all the time, and it never comes up. It's weird.
That's fascinating. I thought it was just because I talk to people on Wall Street for a living and they're not impacted
Are
by
you
the
seeing this?
shutdown, but it's
Yeah, I mean,
not coming up very much.
And I've talked to other governors about this. I've talked to some reporters about this, and they all say some version of the same thing, not just here in Utah. It's like, yeah, it's the shutdown that nobody seems to really care about, which is fascinating.
But I think to your point, it points to the intersection of a lot of what we're talking about. Like it points to, you mentioned SNAP benefits, the impact of health on affordability, of being able to afford a home. I wonder if we can go back to your housing goals specifically. I know that one of your goals is to build, I believe, 150 homes by 2028.
150,000.
150,000. Yeah. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
There's a big
I think we
on
could,
my note. I
we like
apologize.
stretch goals, but I think we could get to 150.
It's 10.
Yeah, that's good.
Where are you at in that goal?
I don't even know where. A long ways away. Yeah, we've got a long ways to go. So we're in kind of the beginning phases of that. We're also trying to build 35,000 starter homes, which is a huge deal for us. We have to do this. You know, I mentioned my son. He came to me a couple of weeks ago and he said, "Dad," he showed me a listing for a home. And it was a 3-bedroom home, and it was like $275,000. And I'm like, wow, that's incredible. He's like, yeah, it's also in Indiana. And I'm like, you know, I don't want my grandkids to be in Indiana. I don't. I mean, Indiana's fine. I love my Hoosiers, but that's a failure. If the only reason they are looking to move to Indiana is because they want to have a house. And so that's why all of this is so important. It's why we're so engaged. It's why we're setting these stretch goals. It's why we're challenging every assumption. It's why we're thinking outside the box with some really interesting, I think, and kind of radical new ideas and policies. One of those is using our state savings account, our treasurer's account, to provide low interest loans to developers who are willing to build starter homes well under the median price for a home in the state. It's never been done. We think that's pretty unique. We're looking at condos. People have stopped building condos for lots of different reasons, some litigation reasons, which leads to insurance problems, and then just finding finance. We're looking at using excess state property for housing purposes that UDOT isn't going to need, so that we can remove the cost of land, which is a big problem here. So we're trying everything to just stimulate the supply side of this problem.
And I think you're also referring to something the president has supported, which is the use of federal land for housing, which I know Utah has the highest amount of federal owned land in the country.
Yeah, we're second.
Second to top. So obviously, I know that you are in agreement with the president on that, but how do you make sure that those kind of rural areas have the infrastructure needed to support family housing? Yeah,
so we're very supportive of that. Unfortunately, the amendment to the bill, the OBBA, that got it didn't pass. We'll just say that. Not what we were intending. We didn't want 3 million acres. We weren't looking for 3 million acres. We need like 30,000 acres of land that nobody wants for anything except to build some houses on. But we do have to make sure that the infrastructure is there, and that's why we're working with our legislature and looking at again unique financing ways so that the developers through PIDs and other financial opportunities can put together the financing for that infrastructure that is needed. We have right now, according to the latest data, we have about 190,000 lots available, papered lots, in this state. So we should be able to build 150,000 homes, but most of those lots are missing infrastructure, and so that's where we can step in as a state to help. Again, we can create these financing mechanisms for developers so that they can get the infrastructure and get paid back as they're able to sell those homes. And we really don't have an option. We have to do it. This is the first time in our state's history we've had housing issues before, but it was usually here on the Wasatch Front in this area that's the most densely populated. It's like the 9th most urban place in the country, which surprises people in a rural state. This is the first time we've had a housing crisis in rural Utah, in every corner of the state. I come from a very small county, very poor county, and the price of a house has doubled there in the past 5 or 6 years. So this is truly impacting everywhere. And that's where, if we could get some help from the federal government, it could make a huge difference. I will just state, this is not like anti-environmentalist. It's not some crazy idea. It's actually happening. There was a law that was passed in one place in the country, in Southern Nevada. They're number one, by the way, when it comes to federal land owned there. In Clark County, the Congress several years ago, Harry Reid just happened to be in charge of the Senate at that time, which is how they got it done. But they made a deal where Bureau of Land Management land, BLM land, could be used for housing. And they set up this incredible group. They worked very closely together. It's worked phenomenally well. The price of housing is much lower there than it is here because they have access to those federal lands. And so that's all we're trying to do, is something like what's been done in Clark County.
And when you speak with developers, how often are they talking to you about their own costs, and especially in the context of tariffs, how their own costs are going up?
Yeah. So that's certainly been part of the conversation. We know that the tariffs are increasing the price of several of the important pieces that go into a house. And there's not much I can do about that. So we're working to lower the costs everywhere else that we can. Those are conversations that we've had with the president as well. We are starting to see now some of those trade deals and some exemptions starting to trickle through, which I think are so important. And we're very hopeful that they come into the realm of housing.
Where have you found agreement with the president on tariffs?
Well, I mean, the place we found agreement is on China and some of the bad actors around the world. Where, what I will say, this is interesting. So, President Trump put tariffs on China in his first term, and President Biden came in and intentionally tried to undo every single thing that President Trump had ever done, except that one. He kept those tariffs on China. So again, I know the president is over there negotiating those right now, and that's one area where we've certainly seen eye to eye. Just got back from Australia, where we were very fortunate to be the first people on the ground. Less than 24 hours after the signing of a historic agreement with Prime Minister Albanese down in Australia and President Trump, in which they signed a trade deal focused around critical minerals and mining, which is again a really important area for us here in Utah. We have 40 of the 50 critical minerals that are needed in this country, and that's more than any other state. We've just been, for, again, bad decisions made in the past, terrible at getting those critical minerals out of the ground and relinquishing that to China, to our greatest adversary right now, where they have control over us because we need these things for everything we do, and we're only getting them from China. So where we found agreement with the president there is, again, working with our allies, with Australia, and hopefully we can figure out Canada, so that we can work on those things together, because they have a lot of what we need as well.
That's exactly what I was going to bring up, because obviously so much of the lumber is being imported from Canada, and those tariffs don't seem close to budging.
They don't, but the next conversation, I think it will change. I'm hopeful.
Your conversation with the president?
No. I think the prime minister's next conversation with the president. So we'll see. Premier Ford, who's also a friend of mine, ran an ad that, you know, apparently upset some people, and here we are. So.
Well, what is left that you feel that you need from Washington in order to achieve your housing goals in Utah more effectively?
I mean, look, there's some things that they can do with LIHTC, some changes that they could make that would certainly help us and give us more flexibility. I think flexibility is what we're looking for specifically on the low income side. But this isn't something that Washington, D.C. is going to be able to solve for us. This is, again, the biggest driver of housing policy is at the local level. And so this is something we really do have to figure out as a state with our local governments. I'm a former mayor, former city councilman, former county commissioner, worked at every level of local government and understand the problems and the difficulties that are there. We've made a mistake of incentivizing the wrong things and making it very hard for our local governments. I mean, my heart goes out to them, because often even if they want to do the right thing, they'll make a decision, and then there's immediately a referendum, and the decision gets overturned, and then they get voted out of office, which is not great for them. So at some level, I'm going to have to be the bad guy, and I'm okay with that. Like, and it's been, I have enjoyed. There have been several city council meetings that have been reported on where they said, you know, well, we don't like this and we don't want to approve this, but if we don't, the governor and the legislature are going to, you know, do something terrible to us. So I guess we have to approve it. And people leave really mad at me, and I'm great with that. That's fine. I'm okay. We'll take it.
Well, we're heading towards Q&A soon, but in a conversation about housing, I'd be remiss to not ask you about the homeless population in Utah. And state planners recently announced this plan to move people who are living without homes into a complex on the outskirts of the city. Some criticism and critics have compared these centers to detention camps. Do you support that approach to homelessness?
I 100% support that approach to homelessness. Look, everything we've been doing has been a complete and abject failure. And this isn't just, you know, again, holding people against their will. It's getting them the help and the support that they need. Yeah, this idea that it's, you know, is compared to Nazi Germany, I'm like, I don't understand that level of thinking. It's just crazy to me. I mean, as if, you know, Hitler were to round up people who were dying on the streets in their own filth, addicted to drugs, and giving them the support they need. Like, that, there is no comparison at all. Look, we have done we're truly a non-compassionate society when we think that compassion is allowing people to die on our streets and to make it unsafe for them and unsafe for everyone else in our communities. There is no compassion in that at all. And so what we have to do is to provide the services that people need, and we have to hold people accountable. We just do. This is the social order. You don't get to just camp wherever you want to camp. That can't be a thing. It just cannot. With a needle in your arm, that also cannot be a thing. We have laws for a reason. And if you aren't if you're not of a capacity to be able to follow those laws, then we have to make it so you can. And that's exactly what we're talking about. And if you don't have a place to stay, then we will give you a place to stay. That's what we're doing. What we're talking about is a small group of people who are unsheltered and who won't take help, won't go to a shelter, and are breaking lots of other laws. And that very small population, we have to help them get where they can make those decisions again. When you've got a needle in your arm, or you're on meth or fentanyl or whatever it is, you can't make rational decisions. You just can't. And the laws that we have in place now don't allow us to help people get to a point where they can do that. And that's all we're trying to do, and that's all we're trying to change. And I believe it's the most compassionate policy anywhere in the country right now. And I'm telling you, there are a lot of blue state governors who are looking at what we're doing and agree with everything that we're doing right now. It's not a red state, blue state thing. Everybody knows what they've done has been a failure. Go to any major city in this country and you can see how we failed as a society and how we failed to protect the most vulnerable amongst us.
Entry and exit is not voluntary at some of these complexes across the country. Would it be voluntary here in Utah?
There would be places where it's voluntary. But again, if you're breaking the law, then we would have the potential to detain you and to, again, until you get sober, until you get clean, and then you can make a rational decision and we can get you into housing.
And I want to make sure we have time for a Q&A. So just lastly, really quick, 60 seconds here. Where are you finding the most kind of agreement right now amid a lot of division? I know this is something you're very focused on.
In the housing space or just generally? Oh, wow. So yeah, look, there is great agreement in the housing space. The National Housing Task Force, we're doing great work together. We've got mayors who are Democrats, governors who are Republicans. We're all working together on this. So again, the supply side, everybody agrees we have to build. I mean, it's been fun to see California and New York governors sounding like I was sounding 5 years ago. Like building is really important. We're seeing it around energy development for sure. Red states and blue states, we all know we've got to produce more energy, and then we're finding it. We're actually finding it on the side of we need to stop hating each other. There's a growing bipartisan recognition that we can't accomplish anything as a country if we can't talk to each other and actually hang out together and like each other again.
Well, with that, let's talk to each other. Any questions from the audience? And I'll point you out. Yes, we have someone in the front row with a question.
Yes, there was a recent survey actually conducted by Axios saying that about 70% of Americans believe that the American dream, the idea that hard work pays off, no longer holds true. And as myself and peers watch the home prices skyrocketing, we agree with that. Governor, what is your plan to address the affordable housing crisis so that hardworking individuals in my generation are able to build a future and also afford a home in the state of Utah?
So that poll was as discouraging to me as anything I've seen. Actually focused an entire State of the State speech around that concept of the American dream and is it dead and can we revive it? And everything we've talked about is actually targeted to your generation. I went and visited last year. I went to 29 high schools across the state, and I was shocked. I would ask the question about housing affordability and how many people in the room. These were mostly high school seniors. I would get all the high school seniors in the gym. We'd talk, and almost every hand went up that they were concerned about the price of housing. Now, I want to ask this question. How many of you as a senior in high school were thinking at all about the price of a house? I didn't, not once did that cross my mind when I was a high school senior. And that our young people are so attuned to what's happening. First of all, I think it's a major failure of social media. Like, our kids should not have to be worrying about that kind of stuff when they're in high school, but the problems of our country are right in their faces. And you can't hate social media enough. However bad you hate it right now, let me just assure you, you cannot hate it enough. $1 trillion market caps, the most powerful companies in the history of the world, are absolutely destroying our young people and tearing our country apart, and they're profiting off of it. And they should all be destroyed. I can't say this more powerful. However, everything that we're doing right now, I mentioned condominiums as a way, as kind of a new starter home. I want young people to be able to start building equity very quickly. And that's one way that we can do it, so that we can start moving you up, right? So that when you graduate from college or trade and technical institution, you graduate from high school, you have an ability to find housing at a reasonable price to start building that nest egg, because your future depends on it. Homeownership is core to the American dream. I think they are one and the same. I think that all of the major problems that we're seeing in society kind of are downstream of this piece. I know when my wife and I were renting, we didn't care who the mayor was. We didn't care what was happening in the local school district. The local community didn't care that much about us. We're very faithful. We go to church every week. My local congregation didn't care about us as much when we were renters, as there's something magical about owning something. It's yours. When you walk into that room and those walls are your walls, and you can hang whatever you want wherever you want, and then you realize, oh, it really does matter who our local school board is, and it matters who my mayor is, and I care about this place. And then you serve and give back because you want your community to be better. And then you have kids. We have a demographic crisis in our country right now, right? People don't want to have kids until they can have a place of their own. And if you can't have a place of your own until you're 40, and say you wanted 3 kids, now there's a biological problem. You're just not going to be able to have 3 kids, right? So all of those things matter. And so, look, everything that we've talked about, this entire plan, the reason I hired the guy next to you, Steve Waldrop, was to save the American dream in Utah. That was it. That's what I told him. So if it doesn't work, it's his fault. This is the core. I'll just finish here. Somebody asked me, this was a couple years ago. They said Utah's #1 in all of these categories. Again, U.S. News and World Report named us the #1 state for the 3rd year in a row. 1,000 different data points. Really great. We love that. Pat ourselves on the back. It's wonderful. He said if 10, 20 years from now you're ranked 25th to 30th in all of these rankings, what will have caused that? And I thought about it. And it's that. It's this. If the price of housing continues to go up in the state of Utah, if our kids and grandkids can't live here, if we can't do all of those things that we want to do because of affordability, then we will fail to be successful as a state. So you are the reason. It's the most important thing we can do, and we have to revive the American dream.
Other questions? Anyone? We'll try this guy in the front. Yeah.
Okay. So, we often see in areas, especially in Utah, that have high opportunities and, in turn, higher costs, that a lot of opposition to building more housing is from the community. People who say, like, not in my backyard. So I was wondering if you have any thoughts on state policies or state interventions that could address those concerns and allow more building
Sure.
in high opportunity areas.
Yeah, you're exactly right. The NIMBYism that we refer to. Everybody knows we need more housing. They just want it where they can't see it. And so that's definitely part of the problem. So we've taken an approach where we're going to work very closely with our mayors and our city councils. There are some areas though where the state is going to step in, and so we have transit zone areas where we've decided, look, if the state's going to spend millions of dollars to build a transit hub in your city, you're going to have some density around that, and we're just going to make that policy decision at the state level, and then we're going to try to give you incentives to help you do this the right way. I want to say this: one of the reasons that I don't like NIMBYism exists for a logical reason as well. People just aren't bad people, but they want a high quality of life. Where we make mistakes is not investing in infrastructure. Where you put density and you don't have the right infrastructure, it can decrease the quality of life for everyone. But we've all been to amazing places with with serious density that are incredible, where people love living there, where they have options, where there's green space, where there's, again, they have the right infrastructure. And so we have to be smart about it. We shouldn't, if I'm a mayor, it doesn't make sense to, to put a very dense development where there's no infrastructure, where there's no roads, and now you have traffic issues. But that's not an excuse to just say no forever. It means you actually have to say yes, and we have to figure out how to invest so that we have the infrastructure so the quality of life stays high for everyone. And if we can do that, we will seriously decrease the NIMBYism that exists out there, and we'll be able to we'll actually be able to make it work. Now, the last thing is just where I mentioned where we have made some policy decisions where I think we should make it a little harder for citizens to challenge those decisions. Look, we live in a democratic republic for a reason. And that is the founders understood that direct democracy was deeply problematic, and that we have to elect people and then let them make decisions and then hold them accountable. And so that's what elections are for. But you shouldn't be able to challenge every single decision that was never intended that a local planning commission and then a city council makes. They should be able to make those decisions and move on. And this is one area where I feel pretty strongly about it. You should pass a map and that's where people should be able to have a referendum and be able to challenge that. That's the right type of legislative action. But then when it comes to actually approving developments on that, we should take a lot of that away because we already had the discussion. We already agreed that this is what we were going to do. And so now, if you don't like the decision, then you can vote me out of office in 4 years, right? That's how it works. But you shouldn't get a chance with every single decision. And the same thing goes for once those decisions are made by a city council, they shouldn't get a chance with the developer with every single decision to say yes or no. That's not how this is supposed to work. You have to give approvals and then you have to move forward. And we're just gonna have to live with that. That's, and by the way, this is a problem all over the world. I was in Iceland looking at some energy projects, and they have the same problem there, that you can challenge at every step of the way, 12 different challenges. We do that with so many different things in our federal government as well. We have to change that. We have to be able to make a decision, execute on that decision, and then hold people accountable.
I think we have time for a couple more. Maybe this woman in the middle in the green, if we can scooch a mic back there.
Believe it or not, I'm not going to ask about rental.
Oh, come on, you can ask. We know each other.
Actually, we're working on stabilizing people in their housing. It's really important to us. And so I'm really concerned about first-time homebuyer education. Our state is, I believe, extremely weak. Right now, we are doing a survey to see how many HUD certified counselors that we have statewide. Mm-hmm. And we do not have as many as we had back in 2008. And we definitely do not have as many foreclosure counselors. And so right now, my biggest concern is what is happening with the layoffs and the trickle-down effect and the foreclosure that may be coming.
Yeah.
And so we're going to be reaching out to New York.
Will you give me that information?
Yes.
That would be really helpful. I'd love to see those 2008 numbers and see where we are now and see how we can work together on that piece.
Excellent. Thank you.
Love it. Thank you.
Do we have time for one more question? And we'll have a quick answer from the governor too, just because I think I was selfish with my time. Any other question down here in the front?
We got a mic coming to you right over your other shoulder. There you go.
Do you have any comments on statewide upzoning legislation, such as, I believe in Oregon, House Bill 2138 or other bills in the past?
Yeah, so again, we're trying to find that right balance between the local control piece and again the state interest with this market failure we're talking about. There's a little tragedy that commons happening here as well. But intrigued, and if we can't see things moving, that's definitely a direction we would look at. Yeah, was that quick enough?
That was great.
All right,
thank you. Crushed it. Thank you. Thank you everyone for coming, and thank you of course to the governor for.
Thanks everyone.
Appreciate it.